all the opera lovers in Chicago can't wait for March 9th. This is when Aida will open at the Lyric. And today we have a great pleasure to host one of the members of the cast of Aida, Ola Rafalo, wonderful mezzo-soprano. Ola, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you will be singing in both choruses at Aida.
Mm-hmm.
How huge of a production that is?
It's an enormous production. It's the biggest chorus I've ever been in. It's really going to be a lot of people on stage. So far, we have 100 people in the chorus, and just the sound in rehearsals is amazing. They
say that with all the extras and musicians in the pit, there will be, at some point, 200 artists performing. Yes. That must be an amazing experience.
Absolutely epic, absolutely epic. And the scene for that will be the triumphal scene, which is so fitting.
Yeah, some people describe Aida as the private opera, really between the relationships between 2, 3, 4 people, with a huge parade going through right in smack down in the middle of it. That's one way of looking at it. But let's talk about Verdi for a second. Sure. A man who was really amazing, father of so many operas. Who was Giuseppe Verdi?
That's a question that we could talk about for a long time.
Right.
A lot of different ideas about who he was. He was a complex individual. I think what you said about Aida is so true. He really portrays the epicness of the feeling that we get of ancient Egypt, you know, this kind of larger than life, the monuments and temples, like the parade, as you said, and then these very deep, intimate, personal relationships that are going on within the drama, which is something he's amazing at. I think he was a student of the human experience and bringing out some of the deepest themes of what we go through in a very artistic and beautiful way that really, you know, changes minds and opens hearts. And I think that's mainly.
To me, what opera is this kind of magnifying glass. When two people love each other in opera, they really love each other. When they hate each other, the hate is really to die for. Right. And Verdi, like nobody else, was able to grab this magnifying glass and magnify everything to really enormous proportions. Let's talk about the story of Aida. Some people say, I know it's a myth, but some people say that this opera was written to celebrate the opening of the Suez Canal in Egypt. Is that true?
No. No. This opera was commissioned when Verdi was already in retirement. He was in his 70s, I believe. And the Viceroy of Egypt sought him out for the opening of the Cairo Opera House, in fact. And he refused at first. And his way of refusal was very creative. He thought, if I come up with an extremely large fee, they'll never say yes. And unfortunately, well, fortunately for everyone since and for him, his plan didn't go as he wanted. And the Viceroy accepted and agreed to pay him this exorbitant fee to write Aida. And that's how it came about.
They say it was 150,000 golden florins, 4 times as many as he received for his previous opera for Don Carlo. So exuberant amount of money. And Verdi was a good businessman because, you know, he retained the rights both to libretto and to the music anywhere outside of Egypt. So he was able to profit from all the stagings, from all the productions that happened later. And indeed, the opera opened on December 24th, 1871 in Cairo. But then the big premiere that Verdi was really looking forward to at Teatro alla Scala in February of 1872. And it was well received, but because normally those operas get kind of meh reviews at the opening night, and then it takes on. Do you think audiences have to learn, kind of dissect what really composers want to say?
Well, I think at that time, entertainment was very different. Our society was so different, and we went to the opera and we did study. We had a bit longer of an attention span. So those art forms really flourished in that time because people were willing to read the libretto and study a little bit. What are we in for tonight? What is the experience going to be? And so that, yes, you know, I think they were ready to receive the information more easily because of that time frame. He was a really great businessman, and you can see that still in his villa that you can visit now. It's a museum, and it's very opulent.
Have you been there?
I have, yeah. Wow. It was an amazing experience, but the grounds, the gardens, it's a magical place. And you can tell, especially for that time period, that he was very successful and a very good businessman.
But at the same time, he was a person with great heart, and
yes.
that really showed after his death.
Absolutely, yeah.
He pretty much left his entire inheritance to the music school that did not accept him when he was young, and contributed to the community. So let's go back to Aida. 4 key people that show up is, first of all, Aida. Who's Aida?
Well, she is one of the Ethiopians, and she is a slave to the princess of Egypt, Amneris. And she is secretly actually the princess of Ethiopia, which you find out a little bit later. But at first, she's just the slave girl.
And she's owned by Amneris. Amneris is the daughter of the pharaoh, of the king of Egypt. They are both in love with a man.
Right.
With Radames. Who is Radames?
Radames is the hero of Egypt. You know, he's a great warrior, and there's a lot of musical numbers surrounding his triumphs and his excellence. And
we have 4th person who takes huge part in this, which is Amonasra, who is really the father of Aida. We'll go back to him later, but it all starts Act 1. We hear the rumors that the Ethiopians are getting ready to attack Egypt, and we hear at the very, very beginning, which is unusual, extremely beautiful aria sung by Radames. The Celeste Aida. What is he singing about?
He's singing about his love for Aida. And so you find out from the very beginning what sets the whole opera in motion is his love for her. And so this is the secret that the audience knows to start off.
Now, technical question. Is it really okay for Verdi to ask his tenor, his principal singer, to sing the most beautiful aria, 60 seconds into the opera?
Interesting question. I think every tenor will have a different answer for you. Some of them will be like, yes, I'm ready to go. It's my first thing. They warm up really well. Maybe some other tenors would rather prefer to kind of slowly get into it.
So in Act 1, we hear the rumors about the war. Actually, in one of the scenes, the king kind of declares war. Radames gets to be the leader of the army. They all sing one of the most beautiful choirs, Su del Nilo, Sacro Lido. They say that they will follow the Nile to lead, and they sing to Radames, Ritorno vincitor, which means
return victorious. Ritorna vincitor.
And Aida also sings that, but for her it has kind of double meaning, right?
Right. It has a double meaning because his victory means the victory over her people. Right.
Yeah. On one hand, she wants her lover to live, to be successful. On the other hand, it will come at the cost of her nation.
Exactly.
Act 2 opens with one of the most beautiful ballet scenes, and ballet and opera are very much intertwined. Why is that?
Well, the music, of course. The music, of course. The expression. I mean, Zeffirelli talked about opera being all 3 muses dancing together, and I think that's very true. The ballet has always been an integral part of opera, especially during that time period. Some people would say it's a moment. Well, it's a tradition, but it also gives time for the set changes in the back. There's a lot of functional purposes as well. But of course, ballet is its own amazing art form, so it's nice to have a little bit of that, peppered in.
Yeah, you're right. And right after the ballet, we hear the news that indeed the Egyptians are victorious, and we have the parade coming in, and there is this triumphal march, this beautiful scene that you described. What exactly is happening at that moment?
Well, they come back with their spoils of war, and they're being celebrated, and everyone is kind of having their own little personal moment and monologues at the same time, and there's just a lot going on at once, but it's larger than life.
It is. Verdi wrote this music with special use of trumpets. They still call them Aida trumpets.
Oh, cool.
And normally there is a lot of strings in the operas, but not here. Here the trumpets play the crucial role. How unusual that is. Do you think it's unusual at all to feature those trumpets that much?
I mean, I'm not a music historian, so I can't answer that as well. But I know that you know, Verdi also, there's a lot of his music is so truly Italian, and the trumpets give you this feeling of this banda. It's like the old-fashioned, like local musician feeling. For the scene of the Triumphal March, also, it's mostly the fanfare, right?
Yes.
The coming back, and this is a fanfare of, like, you know, the parade of the success.
So yeah. 3 waves, each one is greeted with that fanfare.
Right.
And at some stagings of Aida, we saw hundreds of people just going through with those spoils of war that you mentioned. Some animals were brought to the stage. Do you know what will happen this time around? Well, how much can you say?
Right. We won't be having any animals on stage this time, but we have a lot of musicians instead, which, you know, could be called that sometimes. It's going to be a little bit of a different staging. It's not going to be the traditional Egyptian look. So
okay, so a little bit of different.
Right.
After the parade is over, everybody's still celebrating, and the king asks Radames, "Hey, my general, ask for anything, it shall be granted." Radames is asking to release all the prisoners.
Yes.
But 2 people will stay in Egypt.
Okay.
Aida and her father.
Right.
And that's going to have a huge repercussions.
Right. Now, yeah. Okay.
So let's move on to stage 3. This is where the drama happens.
Okay.
Aida is waiting for Radames. She's singing this beautiful aria, O Patria Mia. She's singing about her homeland. And all of a sudden, her father appears.
Right.
With some demands.
Right.
What's he asking
Well,
for?
he wants them to escape. And of course, she's very conflicted because she loves Radames and he loves her too. And it's a very intense moment.
Yeah, like at some point he asks her to kind of betray Radames and find out the location of Egyptian army so they could attack them. And at some point he says, "You are not my daughter anymore. You're just Pharaoh's slave."
Right.
She breaks at that moment.
Yes.
And she does it. She kind of she tricks Radames, her lover, into giving out that state secret, and Amneris hears it.
Right. And that's, I think, one of the most interesting things about what you said, holding up the magnifying glass. These are stories that are a little bit extreme for what we experience in our day, but on a small level, a lot of these experiences really do relate to us. How many times do we maybe have betray part of ourselves or betray our family or whatever it is? We learn these lessons as well. They're not on such a large scale without such repercussions, but we do experience very similar things, you know.
Yeah, because normally how can one conversation convince me to betray my country or to betray my love? It's impossible to do in one sitting, but in opera it happens all the time.
Right. It's an exaggeration that holds up a mirror to our own lives in small ways that we can kind of do similar things.
Yeah. So that conversation is overheard by Amneris.
Right.
And in Act 2, we have this beautiful aria, another one of those amazing arias, where Amneris tries to kind of trick also Aida and find out if is she really in love with Radames?
Right. Well, Amneris is in love with Radames. She wants him for herself, and she has a moment where she talks to Aida. Well, she realizes that Radames is not in love with her, that she has a rival. Yeah. So she has a moment of, okay, well, I have to figure out who's this person. Who am I competing with? And she notices Aida's, you know, reactions to things. So she tricks her and says, like, you're a sister to me, and what's wrong? And, you know, she tricks her and says that Radames is dead. Just to see her reaction.
And Aida cannot hold it at that moment.
Right. And then the final sort of verification, she tells her, oh, I tricked you. Actually, he's alive. And then she really knows because Aida just drops to the floor and is like so happy. And
the music changes. Like first part of that aria is lyric. They're kind of bonding. Amneris is extending her hand to Aida. And then Verdi drops a hammer.
Yes.
How hard is it to sing like that? To change on the fly?
It's so fun.
Yeah?
It's so fun. Yeah, you get to explore the many characters that live inside of us. And I think the buildup is so great because she tries to, here's a woman who's so powerful as the princess of Egypt, and she has to calm her own fire and be so sweet and gentle. And, you know, for me, you're like a sister, and I don't want to see you upset and this and that. And then as soon as she really says, you know,
it was me.
No, yeah, I'm in love with him. And,
yeah. Well, Amneris loses on so many levels.
Yeah.
She loses as a ruler because her slave is better than her. She loses as a woman also.
Absolutely.
Like
it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to experience those emotions with her doing a role like that when I've studied it.
And we can focus on that part because you're a mezzo-soprano. That would be your role, right?
Right. If I wasn't in the chorus, right.
And you actually sang that. Did you sing that aria?
Not that scene, no.
That
so
scene.
I've sung scenes of this opera, but I've never done the whole role yet. I'm looking forward to it with all my heart. I'm working on it now as well, you know, as we're in production. Yeah, I got to sing some scenes from it at a concert. Right.
Carnegie Hall.
No,
right?
at the Kennedy Center.
Kennedy Center in New York.
It was a it was a Verdi, Verdi greatest hits sort of concert. And it was an amazing experience. But right now I'm in the chorus, and I'm also loving that because I get to experience the deeper layers of this work in a very different way. And the choral textures and expressions, this music is extremely spiritual. The gods that are continuously invoked and these stories that are driving.
The great Ptah.
Right.
Isis.
Yeah,
and
Isis,
all
yeah. So that's really interesting. So I'm really enjoying the choral music in a different way.
Yeah, so we'll talk to that because the technical aspect of being part of such a huge chorus in preparations, this is a topic that we could devote another hour to. But let's go back to Aida once Radames's fault is found out that he actually betrayed his home country. He, at the same time, he allows Aida and her father to escape. He's being captured, and scene 4 is his trial. He's obviously condemned to death by entombment. And this is when another beautiful moment happens. He descends. The stage is usually divided into 2 parts. We see what's happening above and what's happening in the tomb. Once Radames descends there, it turns out that he's not alone.
Right.
Aida's
there waiting for him.
Yeah. And another beautiful aria, like they bid farewell to the earth, like they sing Tutto è finito.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
They say goodbye. So that usually happens. That's what usually happens in operas, right?
Right.
Somebody has to die, or everybody important.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, Aida is beautiful on so many levels. What's in there for you? If you had to pick like one thing why people should see Aida.
There are so many things. I think that the depth of the characters, the music, the Egyptian quality and the spiritual, beautiful sounds that are in this opera are very unique. It's not Egyptian music. It's Italian interpretation of Egyptian music, which is very interesting and unique in and of itself. It's a celebration of Egyptian culture, and these stories are also the deeper layers of what women and men experience. You know, and Amneris is, like you said, she's this great loss for her, all-powerful ruler, and then, you know,
the slave is better than you.
Exactly. So it's very relatable, and then the love story of Radames and Aida is so genuine, deep, and pure. It's so pure.
Yeah.
And they, you know, Radames has another chance to live at the end. Amneris gives him that chance if he will never see Aida again, and he doesn't take it. He says, no, I'd rather die.
Wow.
And for a warrior, you know, it's he's had everything in Egypt. He's been so celebrated, but he gives up everything for her, and it's very beautiful.
That's
very
amazing.
beautiful.
Yeah. I'm happy you mentioned that this is not an Egyptian music. It's styled as this Eastern music. At that moment, end of 19th century, King Tut's grave in Egypt was just discovered, and the world was fascinated.
Sure.
But there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
There was no sources that Verdi could hear the music. He didn't know what instruments the Egyptians used. And if you go back a couple of centuries before, like when Mozart had to write these rondo alla turca,
yeah.
He also wanted to improvise and use these oriental things, but it was totally different than Verdi. Verdi did it so much better.
Yeah.
With the flutes,
Right.
I think, did the most oriental thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So let's talk about the choir. How many people are there?
100.
100 people?
100 people, yeah.
How often do you rehearse right now?
This week we rehearse every day. So they separate the men and the women sometimes because there are scenes where we're separate. So we're rehearsing a lot right now. Yeah.
And
we started rehearsals right before Christmas break, so right before the New Year.
Wow. And there are two separate choirs. There is a choir of priestesses, right?
Well, yeah, there are yes and no. There are groups of us that do some of it, all of it. You know, there's different groups within the choir. Yes,
yeah,
of course.
Will you be doing any dancing? Because there is a lot of choreography involved. Right. Do you know that already?
I don't know that already. Today is our first staging day, so after this, I will arrive and I'll find out. But I hope so. I hope that I'll get the chance to dance. Right. That would be great. I hope so.
And who do you rehearse with? Is it Muti? Is it the artistic director of Lyric?
No, the artist Mazzola.
Enrique Mazzola.
Okay. So the chorus has been prepared by Maestro Michael Black, who's the chorus master, and we've been working with him up to this point.
Okay.
And then last week we started working with Maestro Mazzola, so we're now in rehearsals with him.
With him.
Yeah.
But it's not the entire orchestra. You rehearse with the piano?
No, just with piano until we get to the final week of rehearsals.
Wonderful. When will you see your costumes?
Well, we tried them on. We did some costume fittings.
You saw them already?
Yeah, I did see them. I did see them. Right, but I don't see anyone else's until the very
How much can you say about them?
I don't think I can say anything, actually. They don't let me say anything. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Awesome.
I will say that that's not going to be traditional. It's not traditional. They're still very beautiful, very feminine. But yeah.
I know that the stage design will be done by a modern day, like a street artist that goes by a nickname, Gretna.
Okay.
And I don't know, is it he, is it she? But I know that that person did several murals here in Chicago. So it's a good question, how the set will look like, how the costumes will look like, how this entire opera will fit in totally different setting.
Right. I'm really excited to find out. Today is our first day with Francesca Zambello, the director, so hopefully I'll have all those answers after today.
Wonderful. Quick question about the principal singers. Aida will be sung by Michelle Bradley. Radames will be Russell Thomas, very well known. He appeared in so many productions, in Ernani, Tosca, Il Trovatore. Amneris will be Jamie Barton, who sung already 7 times at Lyric. And Amonasro is Reginald Smith, who just sang in Champion at Lyric. Did you have a chance to meet any of them yet?
Not yet. I'm really excited to hear them, though.
What's going to happen closer to the premiere? When the dress rehearsals will happen? When will you actually be moving on the stage instead of being stationary?
Right. So right now we're doing staging. So all the music is already set up and rehearsed. And so now we're putting in all the movement and the traffic, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we put it all together probably starting next week.
Wonderful. Ola, can't wait to see you on stage.
Thank you. My pleasure. Me too.
So Aida opens on March 9th. There will be 10 performances, closing one on April 7th. You already know how to find Lyric. Some of you have been there a number of times, but this is the production that definitely nobody wants to miss.
Right. It's going to be epic, monumental, and historic.
Go there. Go see Aida. Go see Ola Rafalo on stage. Ola, thank you so much for that interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you.